So let's jump into a little bit of discussion about the wines. Let's talk about the winemaking. We have two Chardonnays here.
Yes.
Is the winemaking approach any different?
Well, actually, what we try to do is let the appellation shine, and that's by not making the winemaking dramatically different between the two regions. It's something we hold true for both our Monterey and Sonoma Coast tier, and then for our upper Appalachian tier. We want to make sure that it is the fruit that's expressing itself. It's not a lot of, winemaking handiwork and, leaving a lot of winemaker fingerprints on it. So these wines are, they're picked in the cool morning hours, middle of the night if we can, brought into the winery when they're still,
This is not
chilly.
a romantic business,
yeah,
folks.
no, very, very chilly. Long hours.
Long hours, lots of
Yeah.
handwork, middle of the night. You have to wake up and pick fruit when it's cold.
Absolutely.
So this is it really is a fantastic opportunity for people to experience the differences in terroir with a sort of transparent winemaking applied to each of them.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a pretty light touch with the oak on the Chardonnays. The Monterey has 4.5 months of oak, primarily French. The Sonoma Coast has 4 months. We do inoculate for malolactic, and we let them all go at least partially through a mal, but we do like to retain some of that nice, crisp natural acidity. So it's not all about trying to layer a lot of, buttery characteristics on it. In fact, butter as a descriptor breaks my heart. What I'm going for is creaminess. We really want that texture that you get from ML and some of the roundness, but not something that, overlays the fruit too much. So you have to use a light touch on that, and for that reason, actually, we use our own house strain of ML that we keep from year to year, and we just find it adds that that richness without, again, that buttery quality.
Helps to keep the style consistent.
Exactly.
So that was a good segue for myself, because I wanted to jump in just a little bit about the vintage. Since we're tasting 2012s, have these been released in the market yet, or
they've been
just
out,
released?
Yeah, they've been out for just a short period of time.
So people might find it difficult to find these in the market. There's still probably some 2011s around.
Yeah, on occasion you'll run into the 11s, but the 12s, we ran out of the 11s in most places. So I think the 12s are what you'll be finding, yeah. And and the 11s are tasting really lovely right now, but the 12s, just such a great vintage, honestly.
So what was the character of the 2012 vintage?
It was, and I know everyone always says this, it sounds like spin, but 12 was amazing. Coming off of a couple of vintages that were cooler and
not
later.
Amazing?
Well, they were cooler and they were later, and they were like nail biters. As a winemaker, leaving the grapes out, for a while, for a long hang time, this is wonderful. And then after a while, you're like, well, this is a really long time. Hang time is wonderful, but we'd like to get these in before the fall rains. So 12 was really more of this, as you mentioned, this kind of almost laid back, going out, tasting the grapes, going, I think maybe another couple days will be good. We'll head back out there and try them again, as opposed to, pushing it out so far that you're staring at the weather forecast and starting to, turn a little grayer. So
something bad is coming.
Yeah. No, it's farming. That's how it is.
In a vintage like 2012, do you get to the point where you have to think of logistics, that you have to start bringing some things in because you have to start fermenting something because you don't have the facility to...
It can get like that, but it also gives you the opportunity to sort of pick things at different levels of ripeness. So with Chardonnay, if you pick just a little bit earlier, you end up with more of that great, bright Granny Smith apple kind of quality, more of the Meyer lemon. You push it a little bit longer, and you end up with more like sort of that more rich pear qualities, yellow apples, sometimes melon. So you can just sort of pick on the spectrum. We call it the bell curve, and you end up with so many great things to blend.
To blend with.
Because we keep everything separate. We have literally hundreds of blends of individual lots of Chardonnay that we can then kind of piece together in fun ways and make sure that we've got a really well-rounded, complete picture.
So somebody out there asked about the oak that you use. Can you talk a little bit about what type of oak is used for we'll talk about the Chardonnay now, age of the barrels, length in barrel.
Yeah, so about 4.5 months of oak aging. The Chardonnay is fermented in the oak. It's stirred about every 3 or 4 weeks. And we do use primarily French oak, but we do find a little bit of American oak can actually be interesting in Chardonnay. American oak has gotten a lot better over the years since I first started in the business. When I first started, American oak was just seen as like kind of a dill green, almost, menthol-y quality. Now, with proper aging and toasting, what comes out is more of an intense vanilla, even almost towards a coconutty quality. So it's not something you want a lot of, but it's like an interesting
nice
element
spice.
of spice.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can kind of layer that in, as long as like all the rest of the oak, it's in the background. It's like framing the fruit, not the whole story. We don't want overwhelmingly oaky wines. That's not our stuff. Balance, balance, balance in everything we do.
Balance, that's the key. It is amazing to hear a winemaker say, a little American oak and Chardonnay is not a bad thing.
No, just
it's
a
really,
little bit.
It's come full circle from
Sure.
people really disliking American oak entirely, well justified, because it was very assertive wood.
Yeah.
But using it a little bit is, I think, I find that fascinating. So let's one last question, then we can talk a little bit about the regions. The Monterey Chardonnay uses a diam cork. The Sonoma Coast uses a natural cork.
Yeah.
Why are they different?
We were actually looking at moving.
Do you have the cork so I can show people the diam versus the natural cork?
Yeah, we're actually moving towards the diam for the Sonoma Coast too. We started with the Monterey to see what the response would be, because we thought that we liked a lot of the characteristics of the diam, and honestly, it's worked out so well. We're moving into the Sonoma Coast with it next year, so we're pretty excited about that.
Camera does not always like to focus.
Yeah.
You can see it says diam there. It's a composite cork. It's lots of little pieces of cork, very clean and uniform. No cork taint. Good seal. It's a very good product.
No broken corks.
A broken corks.
It's a nice thing. Yeah.